before you think about it, choose the flower your eyes are drawn to first. Not the prettiest one. Not the one you think you should choose. The one that pulls you in before you can explain why. Because your choice may reveal something deeper than your favorite flower. It may reveal how you love, what you secretly need from a relationship, what you fear when someone gets too close, an emotional pattern you may keep repeating without realizing it. Carl Jung believed that much of what shapes us exists beneath conscious awareness. He explored how symbols, archetypal images, and projection can reveal patterns hidden within the psyche, patterns we may feel long before we can explain them logically. That does not mean a flower can magically define your personality, but the image you instinctively respond to can become a mirror, a way of noticing what your conscious mind might normally overlook. So don't analyze your choice. Just notice what pulls you. In front of you are 5 flowers: the crimson peony, the golden sunflower, the white lily, the violet orchid, and the blue iris. Look at all 5. Which one feels strangely familiar? Which one would you choose if no one asked you to explain why? Trust your first reaction, because the flower you choose may reflect not only the way you give love, but the hidden pattern your heart keeps returning to. Choose your flower now. And once you have your answer, don't change it. Let's discover what your choice may reveal about you. 1. If you chose the crimson peony. If your eyes went first to the crimson peony, your way of loving is intense, wholehearted, and deeply consuming. You are not built for shallow connections. You don't really understand casual when emotions are involved. Even when you try to act attached, there is a part of you that feels everything more strongly than you show. Love, for you, is not meant to sit politely at the surface. It is meant to move you, shake you, mark you, change you. When you love someone, you don't offer fragments. You offer presence, attention, longing, devotion. You remember the little things. You notice changes in tone. You replay words. You feel distance quickly and closeness even more deeply. The beautiful part of your love is your passion. You make people feel chosen, seen, desired, important. When you are emotionally invested, your energy is undeniable. You can bring warmth into a relationship that feels magnetic. You're the kind of person who can make love feel alive again after someone has forgotten what aliveness even feels like. But every gift carries a shadow, and the shadow of intense love is this. Sometimes you don't just want connection, you want certainty. You want to know where you stand. You want to know the feeling is mutual. You want reassurance that the bond is real, stable, and safe. And when that reassurance is missing, even slightly, your emotions can become stormy. Not because you are dramatic by nature, but because your heart does not know how to stay half open. It either moves closer or fears the loss. That is why you may sometimes confuse emotional intensity with emotional depth, but they are not always the same. Not every powerful feeling is a healthy bond. Not every obsession is love. Not every spark is destiny. Sometimes what feels overwhelming is actually your nervous system reacting to uncertainty. Sometimes the people who trigger the strongest emotions in you are not the people who are best for you. They are the people who activate your deepest wounds. And this is where your true lesson begins. The crimson peony asks you, can you love deeply without abandoning yourself? Can you stay passionate without becoming consumed? Can you allow love to be powerful without needing it to become painful in order to feel real? Because your highest form of love is not destruction. It is devotion with self-respect. You do not need chaos to prove that your heart is alive. You do not need emotional extremes to prove that a connection matters. You do not need to bleed for every bond in order to call it meaningful. Real love for you begins when intensity becomes clarity, when desire is matched by discernment, when closeness is balanced by boundaries, when passion no longer blinds you, but illuminates what is true. In relationships, you are often drawn to people who feel powerful, unreachable, charismatic, complicated, or emotionally layered. You sense hidden worlds inside them, and part of you wants to be the one person who gets let in. But be careful. There is a difference between intimacy and rescue. There is a difference between chemistry and compatibility. There is a difference between being chosen and being healed. You are not here to earn love through suffering. You are here to experience love through truth. Your healing path is learning to ask, Does this relationship make me more grounded or more anxious? Do I feel expanded or constantly tested? Am I expressing love or performing worthiness? When your love matures, it becomes one of the most powerful forces a person can receive. Because a healed crimson peony heart is passionate, loyal, courageous, and fully alive. You love with fire, but your evolution is learning how to let that fire warm, not burn. So if you chose this flower, your message is simple. You are built for deep love, but the deepest love of your life must include you too. 2. If you chose the golden sunflower. If you chose the golden sunflower, your love carries light. You are someone who brings warmth into the room long before you speak. In relationships, you often become the encourager, the soft place, the optimistic force that keeps things moving when life gets heavy. Love, for you, is not only about romance. It is about emotional atmosphere. You want connection to feel open, comfortable, playful, alive. You value laughter, easy conversation, shared habits, emotional generosity, and the kind of bond where two people can breathe around each other without fear. You love the feeling of being a safe joy in someone's life. The beauty of your heart is that you naturally nourish others. You check in. You brighten moods. You make difficult days softer. Even when you are carrying your own struggles, you often instinctively try to protect others from feeling too much pain. People may describe you as easy to love, and in many ways they are right. You can be affectionate without suffocating, supportive without controlling, kind without keeping score. But your shadow is subtle, because sometimes your need for harmony becomes a fear of emotional mess. You may dislike conflict so much that you delay important conversations. You may smile through discomfort. You may make jokes when something real needs to be said. You may tell yourself that staying positive is maturity, when in fact it is avoidance wearing a beautiful face. The golden sunflower often belongs to people who have learned early that being pleasant keeps the peace, that being easy keeps love available, that being bright makes you welcome, that being strong means not becoming too heavy for others. So you become skilled at managing mood, yours and everyone else's. But love cannot survive on emotional sunlight alone. A relationship that only allows cheerfulness becomes fragile. A bond that welcomes your joy but not your grief is not intimacy. A connection that depends on you always being the lighter one can become lonely in ways other people never notice. Your greatest emotional lesson is this. Can you still believe you are lovable when you are not glowing? Can you let someone see your disappointment, your jealousy, your fear, your exhaustion, without rushing to make it prettier? Because the strongest relationships are not the ones where nothing difficult ever happens. They are the ones where difficulty can happen without destroying the bond. You are not meant to be the emotional weather controller for every relationship in your life. You are allowed to have clouds. You are allowed to ask hard questions. You are allowed to say, something feels off. You are allowed to stop performing okayness. The sunflower's deepest healing comes when it learns that honesty is not negativity. Truth is not pessimism. Tears are not failure. Conflict is not the end of love. Sometimes conflict is the door to a more real form of connection, one that is not built on image, but on emotional courage. In love, you may be drawn to people who feel serious, grounded, or emotionally complex, because part of you longs for someone who can hold your softness without taking advantage of it. You want someone who appreciates your warmth, but also invites you into greater depth. And that is exactly what your heart needs. Not someone who only enjoys your light, but someone who can sit beside you when the light dims. A healed golden sunflower becomes extraordinary in love, because when your warmth is joined by honesty, you become both comfort and truth. Your relationships gain roots, not just petals. Your joy stops being a cover and becomes a real expression of emotional abundance. So if this was your flower, your message is this. You are a source of warmth. But Real Love asks you to bring your whole weather, not only your sunshine. 3. If you chose the white lily. If your heart chose a white lily, you are someone who longs for peace, sincerity, and emotional cleanliness in love. You are not attracted to relationships that feel chaotic for no reason. You do not romanticize confusion. You are drawn to what feels gentle, balanced, and quietly meaningful. Love, in your world, is sacred, not necessarily in a dramatic way, but in a deep one. You believe closeness should feel respectful, thoughtful, honest. You want a bond where both people protect the space between them like something precious. You may be naturally reflective, private, careful with your trust. And once you do open your heart, you often do so with serious intention. The white lily heart often wants love to feel like emotional homecoming, a place of mutual kindness, a place where you don't have to brace yourself, a place where dignity remains intact, even during difficult moments. The beauty of this love style is your purity of intention. You are not trying to win emotional games. You are not impressed by manipulation. You are not energized by hot and cold dynamics. You value peace because your soul understands how rare it is. But your shadow can emerge when your love of peace turns into an intolerance for imperfection. You may have very high emotional standards, not always outwardly, but internally. You may imagine what a good relationship should feel like, how a mature partner should behave, how love should unfold if it is truly right. And when reality doesn't match the ideal, disappointment can hit you harder than you admit. Sometimes you do not express that disappointment directly. You simply withdraw, go quiet, lower your expectations, or carry the hurt silently. Why? Because part of you may fear that naming the mess will make it more real, that acknowledging flaws will contaminate the beauty you were trying to preserve. But here is your lesson. Love is not ruined by imperfection. It is revealed by it. A relationship does not become real because it is flawless. It becomes real because two imperfect people learn how to face truth without humiliating each other. The white lily often belongs to people who crave emotional order because disorder once felt unsafe. If chaos has touched your life in the past, it makes sense that your heart now reaches for calm, consistency, and moral clarity. But healing is not the same as control. You cannot create lasting love by editing out every rough edge. You cannot protect intimacy by avoiding every rupture. You cannot make people human-proof. Some of the deepest love you will ever experience will come wrapped in awkward conversations, misunderstandings, repair, vulnerability, and humility. Not because love should be painful, but because love becomes genuine only when real selves are allowed to exist inside it. In relationships, you may be drawn to people who seem emotionally mature, disciplined, or quietly strong. You admire restraint, honesty, steadiness. But your heart must also learn that steadiness does not mean emotional perfection, and neither does your own worth. You are allowed to remain soft even when reality disappoints you. A healed white lily is one of the most graceful partners a person can have, because once you release the need for purity without complexity, your love becomes deeply healing. You offer serenity without denial, tenderness without illusion, loyalty without emotional rigidity. You stop chasing the fantasy of a flawless garden and begin nurturing a living one. So if this was your flower, your message is this. You were made for sincere love. But lasting love is not spotless. It is honest, human, and tended with care. For if you chose a violet orchid, love for you is never just about companionship. It is about meaning. You are drawn to depth, not as a trend, but as a necessity. Surface-level connection can leave you strangely empty, even when everything looks fine from the outside. You want to feel that there is something alive beneath the words, something symbolic, something almost faded. You are often fascinated by what is hidden in people, their contradictions, their private ache, their untold story, the version of them that only appears late at night in honest silence when performance falls away. This is why your relationships often feel transformative. They do not simply entertain you. They reveal you to yourself. Love, for the violet orchid, is a mirror and a passageway. You don't just want affection. You want recognition. Not someone who merely likes you, but someone who understands a language beneath what you say. The beauty of your heart is its depth. You can love with extraordinary soul awareness. You often sense emotional undercurrents others miss. You are intuitive, observant, symbolic in the way you process life. And when you connect with someone deeply, the bond can feel almost spiritual. But your shadow is powerful too, because when you long for profound connection, ordinary love can start to feel insufficient. You may start chasing intensity of meaning in every interaction. looking for hidden signs, reading significance into timing, distance, chemistry, longing, eye contact, silence. You may become drawn to impossible connections because they feel larger than life. Sometimes what you call destiny is actually emotional projection. Sometimes what feels spiritually powerful is simply unresolved longing. Sometimes the people who awaken the deepest parts of you are not meant to stay. They are meant to show you something about yourself. This can make love both beautiful and exhausting for you. You may experience relationships as awakenings, but awakenings are not always stable. They can be illuminating, yet disorienting. They can open your heart, but also reopen wounds you thought were already gone. The violet orchid asks you a difficult question. Can you welcome mystery without making suffering sacred? Can you let love be deep without needing it to be complicated in order to feel important? Because your growth is not in losing your depth. It is in grounding it. You do not need to abandon the poetic side of your heart. That is one of your greatest gifts. But you do need to learn the difference between emotional truth and emotional drama dressed in beautiful language. In love, you may be drawn to people who are artistic, wounded, unavailable, enigmatic, spiritually intense, or emotionally difficult to decode. Something in you wants to reach what others cannot. You do not fear the dark corners of a human soul. But not every mystery is a doorway. Some are simply walls with interesting lighting. You deserve a love that does not only transform you through pain. You deserve one that also nourishes you through presence. A healed violet orchid becomes profoundly wise in relationships, because when your depth is anchored, you stop confusing instability with soul connection. You begin choosing bonds that are both meaningful and mutual. You remain intuitive, but less hypnotized by what is unreachable. You allow love to be mystical and practical, tender and embodied, deep and safe. And that is when your heart truly flourishes. So if this was your flower, your message is this. You are a seeker of soul-level love, but the love that is truly yours will not only awaken you, it will also hold you. 5. If you chose the blue iris. If your flower was a blue iris, your love is steady, thoughtful, and deeply loyal. You are someone who values emotional peace, but not in a superficial way. You are not indifferent. You are not cold. In fact, you often feel deeply. You simply prefer sincerity over spectacle. Love to you is built through trust, not sudden fireworks, not emotional games, not dramatic declarations that disappear the next day. You believe in consistency, in showing up, in being someone others can rely on. There is something profoundly calming about your presence. People may feel safer around you than they know how to explain. You do not force closeness, yet you create space for it. You often listen carefully. You notice subtle changes. You care through steadiness. The beauty of your heart is your reliability. When you commit, you mean it. When you love, you protect. When someone matters, you do not take that lightly. You may not always be the loudest lover in the room, but your affection has weight. It has memory. It has endurance. Yet your shadow can appear when your devotion becomes self-silencing, because people who value peace often become experts at suppressing their own emotional turbulence. You may tell yourself that staying calm is the mature thing, that not reacting is wisdom, that keeping things stable is better than disturbing the bond. And sometimes that is true, but not always. Sometimes your calmness hides what you haven't said. Sometimes your patience becomes postponement. Sometimes your silence becomes a place where resentment slowly grows roots. The blue iris often belongs to those who know what instability feels like, perhaps from childhood, perhaps from past relationships, perhaps from life itself. So naturally, your nervous system reaches for steadiness. You want love to feel safe enough to rest inside. That desire is not weakness. It is intelligence. But here is your lesson. Peace is not the same as emotional invisibility. A relationship is not healthy simply because there is no obvious conflict. Sometimes silence can preserve harmony on the surface, while quietly draining intimacy underneath. If your truth remains unspoken too long, love may look stable while slowly losing life. You are allowed to disrupt the calm if honesty requires it. You are allowed to say, "I'm hurt. I need more. This matters to me. I've been carrying something in silence." I don't want peace at the cost of connection. In love, you may be drawn to people who are expressive, energetic, emotionally vivid, or even slightly chaotic, because part of you admires what you sometimes suppress in yourself. You may become the grounding force in those relationships, the stable one, the patient one, the one who holds it together. But remember, being the safe place for others does not mean becoming a storage room for unshed feelings. You matter inside the relationship, too. A healed blue iris becomes one of the most trustworthy partners imaginable, because when your steadiness joins hands with vulnerability, your love becomes deeply nourishing. You offer safety without passivity, loyalty without emotional disappearance, calm without repression. Your bond becomes not only stable, but alive. So if this was your flower, your message is this: your love is a sanctuary. But even sanctuaries need honest voices inside them. Do not hide your truth in the name of peace. Now that you have chosen your flower, the crimson peony, the golden sunflower, the white lily, the violet orchid, or the blue iris, take a moment and ask yourself one more question. What part of that description felt the most personal? Not the flattering part, not the obvious part, the part that made you pause, because that is where the deeper message may be waiting. These kind of symbolic choices are powerful not because a flower can magically define your entire life, but because symbols often help us notice patterns we were already living. Sometimes the heart recognizes itself more honestly through image than explanation. Maybe your flower reflected the way you chase intensity. Maybe it revealed how much you value peace. Maybe it showed you that you hide pain behind brightness. Maybe it reminded you that your standards protect you, but may also isolate you. Maybe it uncovered your hunger for soul-level connection. Maybe it showed you that silence has become your form of self-protection. Whatever your result was, this is not a box. It is a mirror, and mirrors are useful not because they imprison us, but because they show us what we might be ready to understand. Love is rarely just about who we choose. It is also about what in us is doing the choosing. The part of us that longs, the part that fears, the part that remembers, the part that still hopes. Some people are drawn to passion because calm once felt empty. Some are drawn to peace because chaos once hurt too much. Some seek depth because ordinary closeness never felt enough. Some protect harmony because conflict once cost them love. Some idealize purity because disappointment taught them to fear emotional disorder. None of this makes you broken. It makes you human. And the more honestly you understand your emotional pattern, the more consciously you can love, not from compulsion, not from habit, not from old survival strategies wearing the mask of romance, but from awareness. So if this reflection resonated with you, don't stop at identifying your flower. Ask yourself what it is trying to teach you. If you chose the crimson peony, maybe your lesson is to keep your passion, but strengthen your boundaries. If you chose a golden sunflower, maybe your lesson is to let love see your storms, not only your light. If you chose a white lily, maybe your lesson is to welcome humanity where perfection once stood. If you chose a violet orchid, maybe your lesson is to seek depth without glorifying emotional suffering. If you chose a blue iris, maybe your lesson is to protect peace without abandoning your voice. Because the goal is not to become a different person. The goal is to become a more conscious version of yourself in love. A version that knows its patterns. A version that recognizes its wounds. A version that no longer mistakes familiarity for destiny. A version that can say, "This is how I have loved, but it is not the only way I can love." And that changes everything. So now I want to know, which flower did you choose, and how accurate was it for you? Write it in the comments. And if someone came to your mind while listening to this, send them this video and see which flower they choose. Their answer may reveal more than you expect. If you enjoyed this journey into the psychology of love, don't forget to subscribe, and stay close. Because sometimes one small symbol can open the door to a much deeper truth. And sometimes the heart has been speaking all along. It was only waiting for you to listen.